guys, and welcome to another episode of Peptalk on the Joe Maxwell Show. I am your host, Joe Maxwell. Today I have an interesting, juicy topic, and I'm sure you've probably seen it on the screen, but I'm going to tell you anyway. It is interracial relationship and marriages. Today's going to be fun, and I say it's going to be fun because the guests that I have are living the true life. So get a glass of wine, a cup of tea, whatever it is, and let's get the party started. Before I introduce the guests and set, take a look at who they are. Welcome on set.
Thank you.
I'm getting a little bit pumped up already because I'm about to get some juice. Some things from you. Welcome. Jennifer, this is your...
Thank you.
Yeah, my yellow. How are you doing?
Good.
I bet you guys are thinking, well, she's not black, but you're about to find out. Hi, Moyin, how are you?
Hello, Joe.
Blossoming gracefully.
Yes,
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Right. Ladies, let's talk about this. So before we go into that, before people start thinking, well, what is this whole combination? I'm going to let you go into introducing yourself, Jennifer. Let people know a little bit about you and why you are having this topic, and then I'll come over to you, Moyin.
Okay, so let me give you a little bit about my background. My mom is Zambian, my dad is English Irish, and I was born and brought up in Zimbabwe. And so I think I can add quite a different insight into this topic.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now you're married to...
And now I'm married to an Englishman.
Okay, so definitely there's a lot of insights coming from that angle. Over to you, my lovely lady.
Hi, I'm Moyin Gbolade. I'm 100% Nigerian, but I'm married to a Romanian. And so I'm going to be bringing a perspective on the marriage part.
Right. So why are you introducing yourself as Moyin Gbolade in the first place? We need to red card already. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us today. Right. So on this topic of interracial relationship and marriage, where do we start from? Who's going to help me out here? Should we start from? Where do we start from? Should we start from?
Let's start with.
Let's start with the introduction.
Let's
start with how. Yeah, how.
Okay.
How do we introduce to the family?
I know, right? Let's start. So I know, like growing up, it's always, it's a big thing for parents. Parents would rather you marry from the same race, from the same religion, from the same country. And the list is endless. Mm-hmm. And then you find yourself in a situation where you're thinking, I met this guy, he's not from the same religion, he's not from the same country, or whatever it is. How am I going to tell my parents about this? Because I know they're going to kill me. Let's talk about that first. Because obviously, as we were saying earlier on, Jennifer, you had no choice. You were born into the situation anyway. So maybe let's pack you up for a little bit and let's move on to the one who had a choice. And she made the choice, to actually marry someone who is non-Nigerian.
Yeah. And what a choice it was. What a choice it was. I mean, when we're talking about parents, I'm talking about my dad. He's Nigerian from Ijebu. And he wants us to marry a Nigerian from our tribe, preferably from Ijebu Ode. Right.
Okay.
But on the flip side, he sends you abroad, and the chances of that get slimmer and slimmer. So obviously, when you're at university and you meet my now husband, the first thing is, wow, this is going to be an uphill battle. Yeah. But in the end, it's every day you ask yourself if it's one that's worth fighting for. Mm-hmm. And I think I got my answer every day, and that's how I ended up married.
Oh, we're thankful for that happy ending, isn't it? Right, over to you, Jennifer. Like, you had no choice; you were born into it. So I guess I wouldn't even ask you any question about whether or not you woke up one day and think, I'd rather not be who I am today. Because, girl, I'm sure there's some benefits to our skin color not being the same. I need to go and use some Dove. Is it Dove or Nivea right now? Whatever craziness is going on around at the moment. So I think I'm just going to pass on to you in terms of, obviously, living in Zimbabwe. I mean, girl, there must have been lots of benefits in just being the color you are right now. Let's just go into the kind of benefits that you kind of got from just being mixed race.
So it's interesting because when I was in Zimbabwe, if I'm speaking to the black side of my family, I'm considered white. On the white side, I'm not considered white. I'm considered mixed. So that's quite an interesting dynamic, you know. And then you come to England and you're mixed race. You're not considered white. You're not considered black. You're mixed race. That's what you are. So that's interesting in itself. Benefits. I think we need to be honest. Yes, when I speak to people, you seem to get more opportunity just because I'm mixed, which is extremely sad. But it is reality, you know. Especially more so in Africa than here, which is very interesting. When I am back home, people are much more receptive. You know, I go into a meeting because I have a company over there. I go into a meeting, and because of my skin color, automatically the people are like, yeah, sure, Jennifer, you want to do what? Oh, that's absolutely fine. And that's sad, but it's true. That's reality. And do I
it is what it is.
Yes,
that's absolutely.
Exactly.
That's. I mean, there's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm asking this question because I'm sure people are probably thinking, "What's the point?" There are benefits to it. You know, if you
Unfortunately.
there are benefits to it. If you haven't taken anything at all in the last 5-10 minutes, the benefit of having a mixed race child just means they're like a couple of steps way ahead. But that's just being me. So let's bring it back to, obviously, you're both married to. Well, you still claim that you're African.
I am.
No argument.
Yes.
You're both African and you're both married to Caucasians,
Yes.
right? So let's talk about how you guys are being perceived, you know, on that other side. So who should I start with? I think Moyin might be a little bit interesting.
I guess it depends on who you're speaking to, who I'm facing off to, right? If I'm I would say earlier on, if I'm facing off to an African woman, they're actually quite receptive of the fact that, or they believe that my relationship is easier. You know, you're dating a white guy, you don't have the issues I'm having because I'm dating a Nigerian guy or a black guy, which is strange because relationships are relationships, right? Everything comes in, you know, with...
A man is a man.
A man is a man, right?
They come with the same language.
Then, yes, exactly. But if you're speaking to a black man, he's probably thinking, what, your people aren't good enough? You know, but again, this was earlier on in my relationship. And I think everything changes when you get married. Everyone now sees, okay, they're married, they're serious about each other. It's worth giving it another look, and it's okay. You know, you get more acceptance, you know, once you jump the broom and get married.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about relationship before you got married.
Yeah.
So you talked about your dad is like very, you know. So let's talk about the challenges. I'm assuming that it was easier on the other side. You know, was it easier that your now husband's family, did they embrace you?
Yeah.
Or did it take a little bit of time for them to adjust to the fact that it's just all of a sudden come home with a black skin. We barely even see a black skin.
Yeah.
Oh, exactly. Let's talk about that.
Because of how I knew my dad would take the situation, I just assumed that, you know, his family would obviously react the same way. So I went into this with low expectations, knowing that there'd be a fight or there'd be the kind of persuasion that needed to happen.
Yeah, right? Like you're a fighter. She's ready. I'm gonna
yeah, exactly. But I was knocked on my feet. I was very surprised. You know, I was welcomed like almost immediately. It was so easy. My mother-in-law or my father-in-law is great. Grandparents that don't even leave the village. They were very receptive as well. And I think that floored me, and it actually made the climb much easier. You know, when one side is set, is done, then you've got the other side.
And I wonder why I think it feels like it's a niche problem we have as Africans. There's always the Africans complaining about, I don't want you to marry outside.
No. Let me tell you, my brother married a Ukrainian girl, and I remember him telling us a story. So when the grandmother first saw him, she was like, she was from the village, and she was just like, what? And she cried because, for her, she was like, oh my God, she's never seen a black person in her life before. And she's like, no, what are you doing, child?
Dear.
She was just completely. So it's both sides. It depends.
Both sides.
It just depends on the.
Yeah, I think it's just more. It occurs more within the African community where we just want it to be. It's not even just. You don't have to just be black. You have to be like. You have to be from the tribe.
Yeah.
It's so bad. Like and I mean. I can say that I'm not in your shoes, so I wouldn't know. And I guess it's the benefit of having this conversation is just getting to know some of the challenges that it could have been. So I know that obviously you're married to a Caucasian man as well. Now let's talk about going back home.
Yeah.
Has he been home recently?
Has been home.
Okay, and does he love it?
He loves it.
Brilliant.
And he's always, we go home like maybe 2-3 times a year.
Okay.
So yeah.
So what was his first experience going back home?
Do you know what? The people in Zimbabwe are very receptive.
Well, you already said you didn't like the white
they were
skin.
really
Okay,
cool.
so.
No, they were really, really cool. But you know what was so funny is this last time we were back home, he was driving one of my friend's cars, and he hooted it because he saw somebody he knew. And the guy was like, called up his friend, our mutual friend, and was like, somebody hooted at me. Some white guy was driving your car. And he was like, yeah, it was Steve. He was like, what? Steve is white? And of course he knew Steve is white from his skin color, but because of who he is,
the way he kind
didn't
of
see the
blends
color
in,
anymore.
right, okay.
He just saw the person. He was like, man. Then the next time we saw him, he was like, dude, I didn't know you were white. It's just, so it depends on the person and how they blend and how they merge.
And has your husband Moyin been back home as well?
Yes, he's been back home, and I'm so surprised about how he just became so accustomed to it. He from day one he picked up himself, got an Uber whenever we were being late. He went wherever he wanted to go. He's talking to the locals. They love him. He
It's
loves
like both
them.
of you found each other. Perfect, perfect match
So
made from
bizarre.
heaven.
he took to Lagos very well. I feel like he does Lagos better than I do Lagos.
dear.
I'm the same about Steve.
And I think, and food wise, we're talking about things that, wow, I'm like, I can't believe you just had that yam with a huge pot of soup and
And he pounded yam. Does that knock him out?
He knocks him out.
Oh, better. You better tell me knock him out. Now let's talk about now that you're married, and there are still cultural differences. As much as we want to look at the good sides, the benefits of having a mixed race child or having there would always still be the difference. Because I think half the time when parents don't want us to do this is because of dialect, I don't want them speaking a language I don't know.
They're afraid as well for their children.
Absolutely, I don't want you to get
Rightfully so.
lost and all of that.
Exactly.
Now let's talk about the cultural differences and how that impacts. And again, it will be an ongoing thing. I don't know that being understanding helps in that. Now I'm going to hit home really, really hard, right? So Jennifer, I know you just had a baby, right?
Yes.
Okay, so a girl.
Yes.
Now, okay. Have you pierced her ears?
I haven't. Now, this is a very interesting topic. We're always debating it. Me and
Right,
myself.
okay.
Culturally, we pierce a baby's ears.
Girl, like 7 days we pierced.
Her ears must be pierced. She's a girl. This is what we do.
Mm-hmm.
No, my husband's like, no, why would you cause her pain?
Oh dear.
I'm like, no, it's not. She'll look pretty anyway. And he's like, she's already pretty as it is. And
No
I'm like,
pain, no gain. Haven't you told him that? There is no beauty without pain. You
telling him.
go find all those memes and be sending them to me. Changing your DP and be saying no pain, no gain.
We have this discussion on a weekly basis. I'm like, okay, is she old enough now for me to pierce her ears? He's like, no. So I was like, okay, when? And he was like, I don't know, maybe when she's 12 or 13. I was like, 12 or 13?
Sorry, I had to laugh.
She's a grown woman.
Absolutely.
No.
And the pain is like times 10 in that moment. So how then do you deal with that sort of...
I'm persistently at him. Still asking him every single week, can we do it now? Papa, please. Come on, she's like 6 weeks old.
It's interesting because now this is where, as a woman now, it's almost like you have to give up your cultural beliefs now. Right? Or is it we're still trying to find a mutual balance? It's a tough one. It's a
really
tough one because we've got to talk about, what happens when you have boys? I mean, I don't know, what are you having?
I'm having a boy.
You're having there you go. So we're talking about circumcision here. We're talking about a lot of stuff.
About circumcision.
And these are things that, I know without you even telling me anything, that's going to be a battle.
It is.
It's going to be a battle because snipping that thing for Caucasian man is a no.
Eastern Europe versus...
You know what I mean? So how then do you, so those are the cultural difference. How then do you, good luck, girl. Let me know how that goes. We're not even going to go into that, but good luck. These are the moments you be like, I could do with a girl right now because,
so easy.
But we already had that discussion. We were like, because I was saying, well, what if we have a boy? Are we going to circumcise, right? And he was like, no, why do we need to do that?
Yes.
Why would you do that?
Yes.
And he's like, no, that's cruel. Why would you do that? And I was like, because we do that.
Okay.
It's the same thing. With the earpiece, okay, it's a slightly more intimate part of the body.
So I wonder if it was a flip side, if Moyin was a man who is the Nigerian,
Yes.
and then married to a Caucasian wife. I wonder if the scenario would be different.
Yeah, I think it is different.
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know that it would be different, because if the wife will probably feel the same, she's Caucasian, she'll probably feel the same way in terms of, I don't want to circumcise my child, you know?
I think the man would want his son to be reflective of his own situation.
But that's the thing then.
And that's it, right?
Does that not then, won't that turn to be that he's forceful? He's forceful.
You have to compromise. That's the part of a relationship, right? You have to compromise.
And that is the essence of interracial marriages or relationships.
But it's like some of the compromises are big compromises, though, which I don't think a lot of people actually think through when they're doing the dating and all of that. Because I bet you weren't thinking about, if I have a son or when I have a son, what about circumcision? Because you weren't thinking about it. It was just love, baby. Like, you know, I love you. I'm just gonna...
I never thought I'd be discussing ear piercing for so many weeks. I mean, she's almost, 16 weeks, and we're still talking about ear piercing. Should have been done
yeah.
You know?
I know, like 7 days, snip, let's snip it. Right, so, okay. We're talking about this, we're laughing, right? But obviously I know that in your homes, they're like battles that you're going through. They're like everyday conversation. You're thinking, oh God, I'm going to have to be sweet today. Maybe I'll find his happy side and all of that good stuff, So I know that, the other cultural differences that that you guys are facing that we probably don't know of. But I guess what would be good to know is how, we say compromise, we say, love is kind, love is patient. But some of these words are so easy to say, but hard to actually leave. Can you give us an example? I know circumcision is a big one. Let's not talk about piercing and everything else. But can you give us an example each, or when you've had to find yourself, you've had to compromise, or they've had to compromise because of the cultural difference? I'm going to just pass over to you, Moyin.
Wow, there are many situations.
Just give us one. Just give us one good one.
But I would say, the wedding. The wedding, because this is the time when it's I think weddings are for couples, but in African, it's not, And in my situation, at that point, my parents weren't really happy about it happening. And it's either you have it with them there, or you don't have it because they won't come, right? And obviously, I chose to have the wedding without them present. There wasn't any compromise there. But I think on their part, it would have been best if they showed up. Maybe not with a happy face, but just being there, and then that would be a middle ground.
Like you just went. So I found the bone of my bone of flesh. You're there. You're not there. I'm going ahead anyway. Okay, that's I mean,
you have to rely on time. I think time is the best teacher. It's the best healer, and I just kind of had faith that it'll sort itself out. Later in life. Yeah. I think because I was determined to show that it's a good thing, and once people see something is good, you can't fight it anymore.
Absolutely.
You can't. The excuses are gone.
Yeah.
And it turned out that way. And my dad and my husband are best friends, and you're thinking, oh my God, we lost 5 years for this.
Yeah.
So,
isn't that amazing? I'm sure sometimes you just have a glass of wine and looking at them talking, I'm like, I told you that 5 years ago, Daddy.
Yes.
He the best thing that can ever happen to me.
And they're so similar. Funny enough, they're so similar. The way they think, the way they dress, the way they plan. It's strange, but it's just compromise and communication.
You can imagine how many beautiful families would have a lasting relationship that would have had if parents haven't opposed. You cannot marry him because he's not from the same tribe. He's not from. I think it's an ongoing thing anyway. But it's beautiful to see that it's working. We have people who are married, who are born into it, and still happy. I'm just going to quickly pass over to you and just give us one good example of when you guys have had to compromise.
I'll tell you. So I always say to my husband, some jokes are not appropriate for my African family, my African side of the family. I'm like, So now, whenever he's telling a joke and I look at him and he's like, oh, is it too white? And I'm like, yes, it's like so far beyond too white. Like, let's stop right there. So,
like, dude, you're crossing the line there.
No, stop. Or I'll kick him under the table and he's like, why are you kicking me? I'm like, dude, come on.
He just cracks me up. They're like, push. What joke are you cracking? Do you get that with?
Yes. My husband is highly inappropriate, but I think I've encouraged it as well, but he knows, after 12 years, he knows when to dial it back or, turn it up, exactly.
Maybe you can give my husband some pointers. We're still having that bet. I'm like,
So let's just ask it. Sorry, there's another question that I want us to add to this, and it's the interfaith. Now, I know when it comes to religion and culture, they're two different things. While some people, if the religion is so like they won't compromise, and some people is like, it don't matter, it doesn't matter, so long as you let me do me, let you do you. Now, I know that obviously you both married. Are you both in the same religion?
I mean, Christian, but different.
But at least it's Christianity.
Yeah,
exactly. But would you say, I mean, obviously we know that you guys are married, but I'm just saying, going back 10 years ago, before you guys met, would you have dated or married someone who's from a different religion?
So I've done that. Gabriel was Muslim. So I think you have to be very, very realistic about because, sometimes you meet somebody and you don't automatically know what religion they are. And only once you get into a serious relationship do they then, expose the fact that they're from a particular religion, and they then have certain expectations. And of course, if your expectations don't meet, it's going to be really difficult, especially if you have a child, because, for instance, if my family, everybody's eating pork, right? And he doesn't want the baby to eat pork. But then they go to your mom's house. And then, inadvertently, mom doesn't think, and she gives the baby fried rice with pork in it. Yeah? And then that now becomes a big issue, right? So you need to, it is something that... So
we know from what you're saying is culture is not too bad, but interfaith marriages and relationship can be a little bit tricky. What about you? What are your thoughts?
I think it's a lot harder and trickier than just, two people from different races getting married. I think with faith, there's a whole other ball game to it. I haven't experienced it per se, but I have a friend is Romanian, and the girl's Romanian and the guy's from the United Arab Emirates, right? And the way it's worked out is they celebrate both. They respect both faiths, and
Do they have kids?
Yes, they have kids, and
It's not confusing for the children.
They're raising her as both. I mean, she would go to church. She's Orthodox as well, and she's also Muslim, and they compromise again, and I think at the end of the day, the child will get to choose. That's time. Time will, solve. Will solve for it.
Oh, right. Okay, guys. Let's do a rain check now. If I was to give you guys just like 60 seconds, 60 seconds of someone watching and thinking I'm dating someone who's not from the same country or from the same race, religion, I don't know what to do, because this is going to be themed interracial marriage or relationship, and this is probably going to come up. What would your advice be, Jennifer, to our audience?
I think I would say, be sure that you're ready for the battle, because it will be a battle. But it doesn't have to be a bad ending, as you heard here. Yeah, there's a fantastic example here, right? It will be tricky, but if the person's worth it, then it's worth it. And you're going to come across battles anyway, because we're not raised in the same home, right? Even two people raised in the same home, a brother and a sister, can be so different. So you can imagine, even if you're marrying somebody who's from the same religion, same background, same country, same tribe, it's not guaranteed it's going to be easy. You're just going to have a different battle.
Thank you so much for that. Moyin, how about you?
What I would advise anyone, approaching this is communication. Start early. Everything that you're thinking about, questions that you have, start to talk about it. If you're talking about circumcision, if you're talking about where you're going to live, you're talking about how you're going to have the wedding. If you're different faiths, what faiths you're going to raise your child in, start those communication early. It's so important, and be respectful. Just understand that the parents, they had expectations for their children, and it's not their fault that they put all their wishes and dreams on their children. Understand that it's going to be a big shock. It's going to take time. I'm saying this now because I know better now, right? Time teaches you this. You have to look at it from their perspective as well. But so be respectful of the fact that people need time to adjust, but also just, enjoy your relationship and make it good, and then that will allow everything to just fall into place.
You only have one life to live.
That too.
Just be happy and leave happy, isn't it?
And don't be afraid if it doesn't work out. If it doesn't work out, you can't blame it on the fact that it's because it's interracial.
I think
people of the same race break up.
Absolutely.
You know, so don't be afraid if it doesn't work out and people come at you and say, "I told you not to marry that white man." You know, that's something tells me that won't really, if you go down to the crux of it, that won't be the reason why people break up all the time.
Yeah. And don't stay just because, right?
Yeah,
just because no one
exactly. Don't try to show your parents. Yes.
Right, thank you so much, ladies. That was super fun. I like how we kind of went into some of the very, very detailed gist. And thank you so much for bringing it real and being able to give us real life examples. And hopefully our viewers will be able to listen in and pick a lot from that. Like Moyin said, you gave a lot of tips. I would say, please ask the questions. Circumcision, piercing, marriages, and everything else. You need to talk about it. Don't just let love cloud your eyes. Because listen, when you get into that marriage, you're going to be dealing with all of this. So have the clear rules, understand what you guys are going to deal with, what you're going to leave, like Moyin said, and hopefully it works out well for you. And that's it for us today on today's episode. But just before we go, we always like to find out what our guest pet peeves are. And we're about to find out because I really want to know now what Moyin and Jennifer don't like. So right, who do I start? Mini, mani, mo. Mini, mani, mo. I think. So what is that one thing that you don't like?
I mean, I guess it ties neatly into today's topic. For me, I think it's intolerance. It's a big thing for me. I really believe that we need to be tolerant of each other. We need to be tolerant of our choices. Who we are. Just be tolerant, and I think a way to do that is just have some humility, because we're human, we're all trying to go the same direction or different directions. We're trying to get to the same place, right?
Absolutely.
But just be tolerant, and it's and
if I was to kind of ask you, when you do meet people who are just intolerant of the other person, how does that make you feel?
I feel worn down, but then I always ask myself, is this a battle I want to fight today?
Exactly.
I'm not like an eternal optimist that thinks I can change the world, and one person in their 40s is now going to change the way they think about things and approach things, and I'm not going to be the one to do that. But it depends on the day. Some days I pick my battles.
Good days and some bad days.
Some days, but it just brings you down, because I think that we can be spending our time,
doing productive things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's so many things that we can.
I agree. Over to you, Jennifer.
So for me, I think it's ungrateful people, because so often I've come across people who don't even realize some of the advantages they've had, or some of the good things people have done for them. They're so focused on themselves and complaining and not being happy and grateful for what they have, that they fail to see and actually appreciate and say thank you. So I guess that leads into, I really can't stand people who can't say thank you. It's,
it's a big problem.
It's an issue.
I can't deal with that too, personally. It just drives me right up the wall.
And the world is leading that way.
Especially when people feel like they got that because they're entitled to it. That's a whole topic on its own. We can talk about it. That's it. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
I definitely had fun. I hope you guys had a good time.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Right, guys, and that's it for us on today's episode. We only have one topic today, so there isn't a second segment. But would like you to join the conversation. Let us know your thoughts about interracial marriage. And by all means, feel free to talk about interreligion or interfaith marriages as well. Leave us a comment. And if you'd like to talk about anything a bit more deeper that you don't want out there, drop us an email at info@joemaxwellshow.com. Until next time, I am your host, Jo Maxwell.